What are some of the strangest things people lie about? Let's get right to it with number 6, celebrating celebrations. A strange and hysterical anonymous woman in Los Angeles ran into a local store saying she had won a lottery jackpot, causing a stir of excitement in the community. The Powerball jackpot had reached $1.08 billion, making it the third largest prize in the game's history. The woman's reaction to her apparent windfall took a surprising twist when it was revealed that she actually hadn't won anything. Her reaction was caught on camera as she walked into Las Palmitas Mini Mart, a small bodega in East LA, where the winning ticket was sold. The video went viral and was featured on local news channel KTLA, putting the spotlight on her ridiculous celebration and tearful proclamation of winning the life-changing sum. The store owner, Neighbor Herrera, was surprised his store had sold the winning ticket and was unaware of the momentous event until reporters gathered outside his shop. The unexpected revelation took a twist when Sari Palacios, the granddaughter of the bodega's owner, stepped forward to clarify that the woman was, in fact, not the real winner. The news left the community a bit puzzled since the ticket was indeed sold at the store. That meant Palacios' family was in line for their own significant windfall of $1 million, a reward for selling the winning ticket. With plans to use the money for a luxurious vacation and a college fund, the Palacios family's fortune took an unexpectedly positive turn. During her celebration, the woman's distinctive black cap emblazoned with the words psychedelic water drew attention, possibly adding a bit of an explanation for the bizarre display. Her tears of joy and claims of victory were met with confusion when it was revealed that the real winner was still yet to come forward. The woman's demeanor then shifted from elation to a sudden realization, prompting her to flee the scene. As cameras pursued her, she hurriedly ran down the street and eventually jumped into a dark BMW, leaving behind a crowd of curious onlookers. Maybe she was looking for her little 15 minutes of fame, or maybe it really was an honest mistake. Either way, her celebration was likely pretty far from the strangest thing people saw that day in East LA. She'll always be a winner in our hearts, though. Number 5, extended stay hotel. Ankush Dutta managed to turn a one-night reservation into an almost 2-year luxurious stay at a 5-star hotel in Delhi, India. What began as a simple overnight booking at the Roseate House hotel evolved into a 603-night stay, all without settling a bill that amassed over $70,000. Dutta was accused of intentionally skipping out on the considerable bill, leaving the hotel wondering how in the world he was even able to get away with it for so long. But then allegations emerged that hotel staff might have been involved in helping Dutta evade his bill. It's been suggested that the hotel's employees played an active role in enabling Dutta's prolonged stay through various acts of forgery and manipulation. The staff's alleged complicity included falsifying a significant number of entries under Dutta's name, manipulating account records, and incorporating his name into other guests' bills. The intricate and deliberate nature of these actions showed a clear effort to protect Dutta from detection. However, despite the ongoing investigation and the mounting evidence against Dutta and the involved staff members, no arrests have been made as of yet. Why everyone was so into helping this guy is anyone's guess. And seriously, how dumb was management at this place? The guy stays there for 2 years for free and they're like, we think he had help from someone on the inside. Great detective work, guys, yet there's still so many unsolved crimes. Number 4, let's talk about it. In a slimy move, the owner of the California taqueria chain, basically a taco stand, Shea Garibaldi, orchestrated a scheme that involved hiring a fake man of God to deceive and manipulate his employees. The operation, which aimed to extract confessions of workplace sins from his staff, resulted in revelations that shed light on a series of labor violations. The fake priest coerced employees of Taqueria Garibaldi to reveal any sins they may have committed within the workplace. The goal was to gather information about potential wrongdoings such as theft, tardiness, or actions that could potentially harm the employer. In fact, the fake priest seemed to really only care about sins committed on the job because he wasn't actually a priest. But Garibaldi's paranoia brought forth an investigation by the Department of Labor, and the investigation unveiled a shocking trail of unethical behavior by Garibaldi. Alongside the use of the fake priest, Garibaldi had also denied employees rightful overtime pay for hours worked beyond the 40-hour mark, violating the Fair Labor Standards Act. Furthermore, managers were paid from the employees' tip pool, which is a bit odd that the managers were okay with this. And in what seems to be a strong push for world's worst boss, Garibaldi actually threatened employees with retaliation by calling immigration if the employees cooperated with any investigations by the Department of Labor. He even terminated an employee who he thought reported him to the department. As a result of the comprehensive investigation, Garibaldi and his enterprise were held accountable. The U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of California ordered Che Garibaldi and its owners and operators, Eduardo Hernandez, Hector Manuel Martinez Galindo, and Alejandro Rodriguez, to pay a total of $140,000 in back wages and damages. The ruling also dictated that the defendants cease any attempts to hinder employees from asserting their rights or interfere with investigations, which seems a little superfluous, but whatever. It makes you wonder if any of the employees fell for the ruse, and if they did, what kind of penance did the fake priest give? You showed up late and stole some food? Say 20 Hail Marys and then work an extra 40 hours for free. Number 3. Imitation isn't the sincerest form of flattery. Shelby Hewitt's story unfolded like an unsettling puzzle that left both students and parents at Boston high schools baffled and disturbed. The 32-year-old social worker allegedly posed as a teenage student for an entire academic year. Hewitt's charade began when she enrolled in the Jeremiah E. Burke High School, introducing herself to her classmates as Daniela. Her seemingly quiet demeanor led to her befriending fellow students, like 15-year-old Janelle Lamons, who felt a sense of camaraderie with the new student. Lamons described Daniela as really smart and said that she regularly helped classmates with math problems. Hewitt even joined the school's basketball team, where she chose 32 for her number, which was also her age. Over the course of the academic year, Hewitt managed to attend 3 Boston public schools, including the Burke, Brighton, and English high schools. She went by different aliases in each school, further complicating her true identity. Hewitt used her background as a social worker to take advantage of her knowledge of how to exploit foster care regulations. By claiming to be a foster child, Hewitt bypassed the documentation requirements and was immediately accepted to the schools. Hewitt's roommates allegedly helped her by posing as her parents in documents she'd forged for proof of being a foster child. Suspicion eventually grew as students and faculty began to question Hewitt's changing stories. She would often provide varying explanations for her circumstances, such as her parents dying from an overdose, to her father being in prison, and even her claiming to be an immigrant from Colombia. Furthermore, her appearance raised eyebrows, as she dressed too maturely for her age and drove a car that was a little too nice to school. The unraveling of Hewitt's story began when administrators at English High School discovered inconsistencies in her paperwork. A closer examination revealed documents filled with misspellings and incorrect information. Hewitt's ruse was finally exposed, and she was charged with forgery and identity theft. No one really knows why she did what she did, but if she's convicted, Hewitt could face a potential prison sentence. Once you're out of high school for 10 plus years, it's probably not that unusual to wonder if you'd be any more successful with a little more experience under your belt. It is just creepy and weird to actually do it, though. Number 2. The Trump card. Joshua Hall, a Trump supporter from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, operated a series of fake Twitter accounts where he impersonated various members of the Trump family. Hall managed to fool not only the general public, but even the former president himself, Donald Trump. Hall's ruse began when he adopted the persona of political figures and their family members on Twitter, amassing over 160,000 followers across multiple accounts. He posed as Robert Trump, the president's brother, Barron Trump, the president's teenage son, and Dr. Deborah L. Birx, the White House coronavirus response coordinator. Hall's most successful account was the one he made of Elizabeth Trump Grau, Trump's sister. He posted tweets as Elizabeth, endorsing the idea of overturning the election, and Trump actually responded with, "Thank you, Elizabeth. Love." Although Hall's personas achieved considerable success in terms of followers and interactions, his real life was marked by a string of short-lived jobs, including delivering food for DoorDash. Despite the inflammatory nature of his posts, Hall argued that they were merely parody accounts, a claim that gained some credibility due to the disclaimers he put in his bios. One of Hall's more influential accounts was the one he made of Robert Trump. Hall, playing as Robert Trump, ran a political group that supposedly advocated for LGBTQ+ Trump supporters. He started a GoFundMe advertising the group's designation, making a total of $7,384 in donations, so it was moderately successful. According to Hall, the money remained with GoFundMe, but a GoFundMe spokesperson said that the organizer of the fundraiser advisor operating under the name Josh H. had indeed withdrawn the funds. GoFundMe acknowledged launching an investigation to determine how the money had been utilized and emphasized their commitment to refunding any donors who wanted their donations back. Some of Hall's posts stood out for their controversial content. His comments ranged from spreading conspiracy theories, such as claiming that the government planned to implant microchips in Americans, to promoting outlandish notions like JFK Jr. was alive and that he was going to replace Mike Pence as vice president. However, Hall's online escapades eventually caught up with him, and he was arrested on charges of wire fraud and identity theft. The charges against Hall carry significant potential consequences. Wire fraud could lead to a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, and the identity theft charges could result in 2 years of imprisonment. And, like it or not, anytime we've ever read one of Trump's tweets, it's always in his voice. Thank you, Elizabeth. Love. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here for our past release of even more weird crimes. Number 1. Boys don't cry. Georgia Billam, 21, was recently found guilty after an 8-day trial for when she pretended to be a boy and got into a relationship with another female whose identity remains anonymous by law. The case centered around Billam's creation of an online persona, George Perry, whom she used to fool the victim. Billam went to great lengths to maintain her illusion, using online platforms such as Snapchat to create and reinforce the persona. Wearing a navy blue hoodie and maintaining a consistent facade, Billam managed to convince the victim that she was interacting with a dude. The victim, who's severely short-sighted, eventually entered into a complex love-hate relationship with George. As the relationship between Billam and the victim progressed, the victim said she truly believed she was engaging with a young man. The relationship evolved into a complex mixture of affection and animosity. But the scam eventually crumbled when the victim's mother grew suspicious and figured it out. George wasn't a boy. The victim then took it upon herself to investigate George's true identity through social media, leading her to uncover the elaborate deception. Of course, the police were called and Georgia was arrested. During the trial, Billam offered several explanations for her actions. She admitted that she had created the persona as a means of escaping her own lack of confidence and self-esteem. Billam's legal team contended that both parties were aware of the true nature of their relationship, even though she deceived the victim about her gender. During the trial, Billam's defense team also claimed that the victim was aware of Billam's gender and that they shared a mutual love-hate relationship marked by toxicity and complexity. Ultimately, the jury only found Billam guilty of 1 charge out of 16, specifically pertaining to a single incident. Because of YouTube censorship and demonetization and the fact that we still need to pay a few bills around here, we're gonna have to call it an aggressive kiss that wasn't wanted. But you know what we really mean. The judge deferred sentencing to a later date, during which Billam's fate will be determined. She was added to that famous registry no one wants to be on, and the judge underscored that a custodial sentence was a potential outcome. These have to be some of the weirdest scams that people pull. Let's go ahead and start with number 5. Who's your dentist? Crentist? Daniela Slabaran Gonzalez and Victor Bernal were arrested after practicing dentistry without a license in West Miami-Dade, Florida. While illegal dentistry practices aren't highly unusual, the nature of this duo scam was unique. The pair first operated their bogus business out of a blue and white bus that advertised the power of a healthy smile. Slabaran and Bernal wouldn't know exactly how one attains a healthy smile, let alone its power, as they had no formal dentistry training. Yet, the operation still attracted clientele who seemingly didn't have an issue with dentistry on a bus. We're sure it was totally safe. It's not like they were driving the bus while performing unlicensed root canals, which would be totally irresponsible. More recently, Slabaran and Bernal upgraded their operation to a red bus covered by an advertisement for a business called Matthew's Fun Show. But there was nothing fun about this sham. Mostly, children were victims of illegal treatment in the dental office on wheels. Nothing screams quality pediatric dentistry like a big red bus advertising a fun show. Slabaran and Bernal even had an operating website for their mobile dentistry, where police were able to find details about the location of the operation and scheduled an appointment for a dental cleaning and a tooth extraction. When police arrived at Davco Storage and Propane, where the bus was parked, Bernal met them at the gate and drove them to the bus. Imagine being slightly nervous to get a tooth extraction, so you go to the address the dentist lists and it's storage and propane lot. Then the guy who's going to use dangerous tools inside your mouth meets you at a locked gate and leads you to the very back of the lot where no one can hear you scream for help to pull out your teeth from the inside of a bus. We'd be more worried we'd end up in an ice bath with our kidneys missing. It's like Bernal was wondering how he could make his operation as sketchy as he possibly could. At their appointment, police reported Slebarin as outfitted in a dental bib, protective face guard, and surgical latex gloves. As Slebarin diagnosed, evaluated, and offered to treat the officer, officials moved in and arrested the two. After the arrest, officers searched the bus and found bags containing various prescription drugs, including lidocaine, mepivacaine, ibuprofen 600, and other dental products. Bernal was charged with possession with intent to sell, dispense, or deliver drugs without a prescription. Sounds like this pair were busted. Number 4. I am Alison Krauss. Almost everyone has heard some sort of story about catfishing, but in this case of 53-year-old Peggy Sue Evers and 75-year-old Dawn Fulton, Evers never distorted or faked her appearance. Fulton had been lonely after his wife's death, was eager to find companionship through dating apps. Peggy Sue Evers, as Alison Krauss, met Dawn Fulton on such an app, claiming to be hiding in witness protection, which makes total sense for a famous person in witness protection to tell a stranger online. Poor Dawn. Evers was able to further convince Fulton that she was the famous country star and 27-time Grammy winner by singing a few tunes. There was absolutely no physical resemblance between country star Alison Krauss and scammer Peggy Sue Evers at all. But the few songs Evers sang to Fulton, along with being deeply lonely, seemed to be enough to convince him. Shortly after they met on the dating app, Evers and Fulton were married, which raises questions as to how Fulton was still fooled at this point. Not long after their marriage, Evers began to drain Fulton's life savings. She also convinced Fulton to sign over the deed to his house and filed a will for him, leaving all his assets to herself as naming her children as his heirs. Evers essentially took everything that Dawn Fulton had acquired over the course of his 75 years because she's an awful human being, as are all scammers, and she would have continued to do so had the bank not become suspicious. First Security Bank reported a welfare concern to police, saying that Fulton was in poor health and there was reason for concern that he was being taken advantage of. Fulton's bank account went from $45,000 to $5,000 after marrying Evers. Fulton also mentioned signing the deed to his house over, but he didn't know it was put in Evers' name. He thought he was signing it over to his son. Evers was arrested and pleaded guilty to theft by deception and was sentenced to 8 years of probation, ordered to pay $73,000 in restitution, return 4 cars to Fulton, and sign his home back over to him. Despite her deception of a lonesome, overly trusting man, Evers wasn't to receive any jail time. That's until she failed to return Fulton's vehicles within 60 days of her guilty plea. Evers then failed to appear in court and was rearrested at a motel where she was registered under a false name. She was given an additional 257 days in jail and 15 years probation. Maybe Ma Gorg will return to the trash heap from whence she came to live with the other Gorgs. Number 3. Scammed at first sight. Michelle Karen first put her name on the map during her appearance on Married at First Sight, a popular dating show. The show is less about dating and more of an immediate marriage to a stranger, harkening back to a simpler time when you didn't have to bother actually knowing someone and could just make a significant commitment based on appearance. You know, like the way the Founding Fathers intended. Michelle's Married at First Sight romance shockingly didn't work out, and afterwards, she returned to her full-time job in policy training. She lost her policy training job after refusing to comply with vaccine mandates, and then began to make content for OnlyFans, an adult content website, also the way the Founding Fathers intended. We're looking at you, Mr. Franklin, sinner. After seeing initial success on OnlyFans, Michelle read an article that claims several prominent Australian celebrities, including a notable TV host, had endorsed an online brokerage company. She decided to get in on the allegedly golden investment opportunity and began to put her money into it. A lot of her money. But Michelle became suspicious after a few months passed without any of the promised financial returns. As her suspicion grew, Michelle started contacting the brokerage company to ask about her payments. Instead of payments, they sent a handsome financial broker named Charles. Charles played into Michelle's longing for love and would send her flowers, chocolates, and words of affirmation promising that he would fly her out to London so they could be together. The con man even promised her a pony in every color, which is very misleading because unless we're talking about patterns, isn't there only about 4 colors? 5? There's not a lot of colors is what we're saying. This isn't a My Little Pony situation where Charles is going to be buying her 100 ponies. Michelle became more and more enamored with Charles, although she was suspicious of his accent that sounded more South African, but she looked past it for love. At the same time Charles was wooing her, the online brokerage firm created fake stocks that made it appear as if Michelle was earning thousands of dollars through her investments. In reality, the brokerage was stealing all her money. The scam fell apart when Michelle had to make an emergency hospital trip following a severe case of pancreatitis. She attempted to withdraw $5,000 to cover her medical bills, and her withdrawal was denied. Up to that point, she believed that she had over $180,000 in her bank account. Michelle called Charles, who told her there was an investigation going on at the brokerage, and he was unable to access her funds at the time, keeping her on the hook just a little bit longer. Eventually, she put her foot down and insisted that she was leaving the brokerage firm. She was told that the only way she'd get her money back was to put down another $12,000. Michelle truly began to feel the weight of her suspicions and went to the brokerage website to leave negative reviews, which were immediately taken down, increasing her suspicion. At this point, the scammers had also infiltrated Michelle's personal devices after she gave them access via a remote desktop application called AnyDesk. She learned she had been hacked after logging onto her computer to find a website open with a basket full of purchases she had never made. Michelle will never get back the money she lost, but she said that the worst part was being fooled with another failed romance. She said she missed her chats with Charles and was left both broke and brokenhearted. Number 2. Inmates with benefits. California resident Brandy Iglesias used the names of notorious convicted murderers to collect unemployment benefits, racking up more than $145,000. She also filed for unemployment benefits under her own name, despite being fully employed. Iglesias was employed at a private company that contracted with San Quentin State Prison, where she learned of and stole the identities of killers Scott Peterson and Casey Stainer. Scott Peterson was, well, you probably know the Scott Peterson story. Casey Stainer was convicted after confessing to the murder of 4 women in Yosemite National Park in 1999. Stainer is still on death row, allowing Iglesias the opportunity to capitalize upon his unemployment benefits. Through her job, Iglesias was able to attain the private information of the convicted criminals and move forward with her scam. Iglesias claimed $18,562 under Peterson's name and $20,194 under Stainer's name. The rest of her fraudulent earnings were gained from her own unemployment benefits, amongst others. Iglesias joined her convict aliases behind bars on October 26, 2022 on 10 charges of grand theft, forgery, identity theft, and making false statements. While most may think that taking the unemployment money of individuals who have committed terrible crimes isn't the worst thing you can do, Iglesias preyed upon a system that aided those heavily impacted by the pandemic. During the pandemic, California, amongst other states, faced unprecedented fraud attempts, and most of the schemes were linked to the Emergency Federal Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, a program put in place to ameliorate the financial devastation of pandemic job loss was soiled by crimes committed by those like Iglesias. Such thefts harm families in need, parents left jobless during the pandemic, and people who just struggle to get by. Number 1. Art becomes con. British native Larissa Watson was a creative director at an interior design firm and had enjoyed a successful art career. Her position in the art world left her known as a refined, upper-class lady with an esteemed reputation. Then, one dreary British day, Watson just up and left. Her family members reported her missing while Watson was on the way to Italy, where she would begin a 4-month crime spree throughout the country, culminating in her attempting to steal a 130,000-pound luxury yacht. Watson posted her Italian travels to social media, enjoying lavish dinners, spa treatments, and hotels without payment. She posted a message on Facebook on Mother's Day saying that she was missing her 4 children while she was enjoying luxury dinners. She frequently updated her socials, detailing her new lavish lifestyle, and she created one unique post saying that she had been kicked out of a party in Bologna. Watson was first arrested for sneaking into a hotel room and attempting to flee. After her arrest, Watson told the British Embassy that she didn't want to go home and hoped her family and friends would come to Italy. Next, Next, Watson headed to the spa where she ordered a beauty treatment. She was arrested again and cautioned for not paying the bill. When she was arrested, she had no money or form of identification and appeared to have been living out of her backpack. Despite the likelihood that Watson had been sleeping and living in rough conditions, she was left feeling fresh and rejuvenated after her visit to the spa. All that running out on bills can really take a toll. Watson was ultimately let go by police and continued her crime spree, with her next crime being the biggest. Watson attempted to steal a 130,000-pound yacht from a high-class Portofino resort on the Italian Riviera. To be fair, the keys were on board the yacht, which is like practically asking someone to come steal your yacht. All Watson had to do was start the engine and sail away like Styx. But before Captain Larissa Sparrow could make her grand escape, an employee was able to leap from the dock on board the boat. He grabbed the keys from Watson and turned the yacht back to port. Watson picked up a grand theft charge for his crime and the nickname the Portofino Pirate. Authorities searched through Watson's social media and discovered that she had undertaken navigation courses, so she was familiar with boat handling and that her boat heist was planned. Since Watson's string of crimes and arrests, she was released on bond and her whereabouts are unknown. If she doesn't appear in court for her fraud charges, she will receive an international warrant for her arrest and could face up to 3 years in jail. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather do. Go back to high school with the knowledge you know now and have zero net worth, or be given $1 million cash right now.